Hello and welcome to Steampunks, GameSpot's new show where we look at Steam games of the past week and tell you what's worth throwing down some money for. I'm Edmund Tran.
I'm Jess McDonald. So you probably noticed a bunch of Steam games that have gone up that are not flying under your radar, including Warhammer Vermintide 2. You definitely don't need us to tell you about that, but there are some games that fly under the radar every single week that are totally worth playing that you might want to know about and haven't heard about. So that's what we're going to try and do for you.
Hey guys, it's Ed here from the future. Turns out our mics were turned up a little high for our very first episode, so apologies for blowing out your ears occasionally. Bear with us on this one because it sure won't happen again. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show. So Jess, what did you play this week?
Alrighty, so the first game I played is something that is causing a little bit of a buzz in the Steamosphere. It's called Ghost of a Tale, and the best way to describe it is it's Thief with a mouse. It's described as an action RPG by Seath CG, who is the developer and the publisher, and it's absolutely gorgeous. You're probably looking at the mouse right now, who is probably the cutest in-game mouse I've ever seen. It's ridiculous.
I don't know, Moss just came out on PlayStation.
I reckon this little guy is gonna give Moss Mouse a run for his money.
All right.
It's ridiculous. So also Tilo the mouse has basically woken up in a prison cell and his wife has gone missing and he's trying to find her. So basically it's Thief functioning in the world of like a bug's life. Like it's just functioning on this tiny little level, and obviously you're a little mouse. So while this is an RPG, you're not really leveling things like, oh, I'm gonna get like super tough. Like you need to sneak better. You need to be able to run faster. So in the beginning areas, you're basically stealing keys, grabbing stools to hoist yourself up to higher areas so you can grab keys. You can also dress your little mouse up in like pirate garb and like all these different outfits, and it's bloody adorable. It's just a really clever little game. It is a callback to those old school stealth games because there's very little hand holding. You absolutely need to figure out for yourself like how to proceed.
Okay, well you mentioned Thief, and when I think of Thief, because I love Thief, I think of stuff like setting things on fire and dousing flames with water and sort of manipulating your environment to give yourself an advantage. Is there any of that in this?
You do have a candle and a lantern, and you can burn certain things.
Okay.
So in the beginning area, you're basically in a jail for a long time, and then you get out into a more open area where you're basically trading, as you do in most RPGs, deciding to go off and do quests for people for information. So it's $25. So you're hitting about a mid-range price there, but I think for the amount that they've worked on it and the reception it's gotten so far, which is pretty damn positive, after got about 700 reviews at this point. If this does look like your thing, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to check this one out.
Yeah.
Well, the first of my games this week is not so cute, but it's pretty cool. It's got a cool design sense. It's called Echoplex. So this is a first-person spatial puzzle game in the vein of things like Portal, Antichamber, and Cube. So the first thing that needs to be said about this game is that its presentation is slick as hell. The design is really minimalist, and it's got a sort of pharmaceutical look.
How strange.
A futuristic pharmaceutical look, but it has these really well done full motion cutscenes that teases your quote unquote memories as you go through the game and sort of presents an intriguing mystery like piece by piece. But game-wise, its unique mechanic is the existence of echoes, which you trigger after you've been in a level for a certain amount of time, and these echoes will follow the exact path that you take. So as you can imagine, this is used in a lot of different puzzles that make you sort of run through a level, double back on yourself, stand in one place for a few seconds while your ghost catches up with you, and then it'll just execute a bunch of things that you may have triggered yourself. Now, obviously, when you have a game with multiple copies of yourself, you really get into sort of unsettling narrative areas.
We're getting into swapper territory.
Oh, get into swapper territory big time. So if you touch your echo in a stage, you die, you have to restart. But it's got a really accessible mechanic where every time you fail and return to your starting room, there's a little like map of the level that's slowly drawn on the wall of the room in sort of like a permanent marker, as if your dude is making notes for himself.
Oh, that's great.
So it's got that, you know, the present day stuff in Assassin's Creed where it feels like he's trapped and he's in a conspiracy. It's got that kind of like really interesting vibe about it. So yeah, it's a good brain teaser, although the difficulty in the puzzles ramps up really, really quickly. In the hour or so that I played, I was like breezing through this pretty easily, and I eventually got to a stage with drones, and drones are introduced, and they have guns. And they have a pathing mechanism that's really, it's a bit tricky to judge where they're going to go and how they're going to shoot. And since they can one-hit kill you, it can be really frustrating if you don't click on to the solution immediately. So this one just came out of early access phase, and it's $15 on Steam for PC and Mac.
All right, well, we were in the future, so let's go back. Let's go to the past.
To the future?
No. Back to the past.
Okay,
Just a regular
all right.
past. We're actually going back to the 1700s for this one. The very end. Very end of the 1700s. There is a adventure game, although I hesitate to call it an adventure game because it is unlike anything I've ever played, called The Council. And The Council takes place in 1793. You and your mum, actually, who both have weirdly unfortunate noses.
Hey,
And
don't
I'm
talk about my
not
mum like
I'm not sure what the decision was on that front. You're part of this order that also has George Washington in it. For some reason. They reckon it's not based on true events, but it also, they seem to be suggesting, it's like a conspiracy theory
Illuminati
type thing. It's Illuminati type. It's a secret society, golden order. The game opens with you and your mother trying to escape some guy who's threatening you, and you manage to do that, and you get to make a decision really early on whether you want to trust her to handle the situation or whether you want to handle it yourself. And that's a really good example of how the rest of the game goes. There are tons of choices to make, and they seem to have really divergent paths based on what you decide to do. So a bunch of time passes from that point, and your mother she's basically a super spy. She's like way good at her job, and you're like kind of her lackey. So she goes off to this island, this very prestigious island where she's been invited, where George Washington also rocks up, and this English Duchess, and a guy who I'm pretty sure represents the Vatican. And your mum's gone missing. She's just gone.
Oh no.
So some of the interesting things you can do in this game is, okay, so you know when it is got a lot of RPG elements. You know when you start an RPG, you pick a class, right? Yeah. So say you only ever wanted to be a talker. Like say you're the kind of person who only puts points into intimidation or persuasion or charisma. This is that game. Every single thing that you can put points into is related to talking or related to knowledge.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, you get to pick if you want to be a detective who's really good at picking up on signals and seeing things in the environment, or you can be a diplomat who's just really good at talking the talk and getting people on side and making people like you, or you can be an occultist. So that's a more knowledge-based one where you just know the ins and outs and you're able to not so well like speak to people, but know what people are talking about and when they're alluding to things
that's
that
like
are a
street
little
knowledge.
bit. Yeah, it is.
1700s street knowledge.
That's right. You can make decisions based on the skills you've earned by being one of those classes. And what I really love about this game is that it keeps telling you when you can't do something because you didn't pick that skill.
Oh, okay.
So it makes it really clear to you that if you'd picked this, you'd be able to do that, but you can't. So you're going to have to find another way. Another interesting thing is every character has immunities and vulnerabilities when you talk to them. So for example, the creepy ass servants in the mansion who wear giant masks on their faces so you can't even see them. One of their vulnerabilities is questioning. So if you get into hard questioning with the servants, they'll back off. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Right, yeah.
So you need to be clever about what you do. There are also a couple of other things like opportunities. So you will have a timer that will run down at any point in a conversation. A couple of glowing bits will appear on the screen, and there is something there to investigate. And if you pick the right one, it will be like, hey, I noticed this interesting crest on George Washington that has to do with my mother or whatever. It doesn't matter if you have all the talents in the world. If you bought all of them by getting all the skill points, if you run out of ability points, you have to find little, they're kind of like potions, like little honey deposits that reinvigorate your ability points. Otherwise, you can't do them anyway. I do have a complaint in that the movement is an absolute nightmare. Right. Dude trundles along. Turning is a nightmare. His turning circle is like a tank. The voice acting is hit or miss, but it's just really impressive, and the things they're trying are really great.
Right, so this is just episode 1 as well,
This is just episode 1, yeah. So this is an episodic game. There's going to be 5 episodes in total, and right now it's going to cost you $30 for all of them, and from what I've seen so far, it's so damn worth it.
All right, well, that game advanced a genre in many different ways. But my second game does not advance the genre. In fact, it actually goes back in time to a period where this genre was much simpler than it was today. And I'm talking about a Medieval. A Medieval is an early access game that's just gone into Steam, and it's a retro throwback 1990s first-person shooter. This one's got a medieval fantasy theme, so basically all your enemies are demons and the undead. So it distinctly reeks of games like Hexen and Heretic. It's incredibly fast-paced and very old school. So if you like the pacing of the Doom reboot but hated its modern day affordances like takedowns and all that kind of stuff, then this might be more up your alley if you haven't already delved into it. Basically what you go up against is tons of enemies and a bunch of unique weapons to take them down with. So you have like axes, swords, and it's been a while since we've seen like a lot of fancy weapons in a fast-paced shooter. No regeneration, so you'll need to find and manage pickups of both your health and mana, which is basically your ammo. There's some light level puzzling, like finding keys for doors, and you do need to pay attention to the levels, which are pretty big. The controls are very tight, which is great because you move really damn fast, and the game can get pretty damn hard. So it's in early access right now, and I think there are like 3 episodes available out of like a eventual 7. So yeah, it's $20 on Steam, and like I said, if you like reflex-based shooters, give it a shot. You can't really go wrong. Alright, well that does it for Steampunks this week. You can find links to all the games we mentioned today in the article or in the YouTube description. If you think we missed a real gem in the past week, be sure to let us know on Twitter. I'm at Edmund Tran.
And I'm at Jess McDonald. And also do keep in mind that we'll be back same time next week, and you should let us know if a game appears on Steam between now and then that you think we absolutely should cover in next week's show. But until then,
see you later.
See you later.